Okay, so this is my final exam. I guess that's what it's called. Yeah, it's my final exam. I'm gonna answer the questions on this because I haven't prepped for this at all, and I hope that's okay. You did just say to turn on the camera. So, what was the most important lesson learned from this course in relation to interpersonal, group, or public context? Um, I've mainly found that while this class is very informative on public speaking, a lot of the basic knowledge that is taught in this class is, or what I assume, well-known knowledge. I knew a lot of the answers to the quizzes without having to use the book, and then when I read the book, I would go through and find like deeper relations and metaphors and stuff to make better comparisons. But I feel that everybody knows how to speak and everybody knows how to communicate for the most part. They just don't use their communication properly, nor do they keep in mind other people's needs for communication. And that lesson is really important because sometimes you forget that people can communicate well. Some people just choose not to, whether that's just because of the way they talk or the amount they talk. They know how to communicate. You just have to get them in an area where they're comfortable, and maybe you try to learn a little bit about how they talk. And that's really because it's always about your audience of who you're talking to. And even if that's a normal conversation just with one-on-one person, or even if it's a group of people, or even if it's one-on-one person, it's always important to know who you're talking to and know at least a little bit about them. And everybody will understand you if you learn just a little bit about the person or the people you're talking about. It's basic communication, I suppose. What was the most important thing you learned about yourself interpersonally in relation to communication? I am very open and very honest a lot, and sometimes that can end up hurting people. And I realize that. But it's something I personally need to work on, which I'm a little too open for some people, and I am pretty much not even an open book, but a box. It's all in there. You can see everything laid out, and it's kind of deep. There's a lot of stuff, but I share too much, and that includes my opinion or what I believe to be the truth, and that can hurt people and can hurt me too. In a time seemingly full of divisiveness, mainly due to a lack of good communications in my opinion, what advice would you give us all going forward to repair the damage done and unite us as one people? The advice should be communication related. I was wondering about that. No. Well, coming from the way we were, I believe that as human beings, as people in general, we found a pretty good system to communicate. There was TikTok it came a lot bigger as a social platform when the pandemic came through, and that was a way for everybody to communicate and to also deal with their emotions through humor. And they would find people within the same type of community that they could connect with, and that helped them a lot. Many people made friends through all of this because of the ways that we have adjusted. And I think that we just did a good job. Like, I honestly think I'm sorry to go against what you think, Professor, but I believe that we did a great job, and this is one of the times we've been closest together. While there were a lot of political and social rights and ideas that became a big issue around the time of all of it, I will say that it's brought a lot of communities closer. Now, it's not the best kind of communities to bring together, because there are still a lot of far leftists and rightists who will try to egg on and attack each other no matter what, and that this pandemic really set those people apart too, for those who don't believe in it and those who do. And I think we did a really good job. I guess a way to better communicate would be, there isn't any way. We did the best we could, genuinely. Everybody was on video calls. All the teachers included did video calls. There were emails, text messages, phone calls. there were people meeting in public, but we did distance socialing. Social media was a big support for everybody to communicate on, and I don't think that we could have done that any better. And I don't think that anybody's, while it may not have been in-person communication, and we may have lost a few skills on communicating as such, I think, yeah, if you want something we could have done better, I think that calls would have been a lot better, because there were plenty of Zoom meetings with teachers where students would sit quietly and listen to the teacher mumble on and try to get people to answer questions. And there were plenty of text messages, and most of social media is comments and likes and random posts that don't really have a lot of words. While that is still a type of communication, it's not the communication that we are based off of when we're in public. So I think that if people would have relied a lot more upon, I think the best answer would have been video chatting, would be like, that would have been the best, because it's the closest you can get to in-person communication. You can see body language, you can see facial expressions, and you can hear the tone of voice, because oftentimes people lose friends just because somebody thinks a text message or a comment is sarcastic, and you can't always read the tone through a message. So if we need to correct it, I still think that we've been the closest we've been, even if we aren't using our direct words to communicate. Just rely more on video and visual communication. And that includes if this happens again. I believe that as a whole world even, we have done really well for communication. But once again, that's my opinion, and I'm hoping that you don't see too oddly of me for thinking that. Yeah, so that's really my thoughts on all of this. That really made me think about it, though, because that made me think, like, this is probably one of the closest times we've all been together. Like, and those who you do let hang out with you, like those who get vaccinated, those who don't, but those who do or did hang out in person, those are the people that you truly trusted. Those are the people that really meant the most to you, because most of the time people would not just risk it all and go hang out with some people that they were kind of friends with or they used to hang out with before the pandemic. No, those were your true and trieds. And that was shown because you kept communication, and then you took it one step further and communicated in person again. Even if it was 6 feet apart with 2 double layer masks and in an area where you could barely hear each other, it was still finding a way to communicate in person, which made it a lot more meaningful. But once again, that's just my opinion and my oversharing. So I've had fun in this class. Thank you all, students and professor, for listening and watching all of my speeches, and especially if you made it all the way through this. Well, I know the professor will, but it's been really fun. It was nice to hear a lot of new poetry from some of the fellow students. This is not part of the assignment. Once again, oversharing. Anyways, I had fun. Thank y'all for listening, and thank you for teaching, Professor. It was good. It was a good class, especially even if it was online for public speaking. Really. Okay.